sort of co-creation process. Okay, sorry, that was confusing. So we had the workshop in Dresden that Merle has also mentioned, and that was a 2-day workshop where we pretty much took everything that we have found out and we workshopped it, and it was some 10 sessions, I can tell you. And it's also, because some of the content is new, we're trying to work with micro-credentials, so that was new for a lot of partners. So to kind of work through all this content, we, got really good answers to all our questions that we need for our curriculum. And in the step 3, then we drafted the first curriculum, and that's pretty much really incorporated all the feedback that we had collected and all the things that we had decided. And then there was still a couple of questions left. So we just worked through that through a shared document, sent that back to the partners. They could give their feedback again. Then we did a sort of redraft. So we already revised the draft once. And now it is what we pretty much have today. And we are presenting the summary of the draft to the target group. And that is step 4. That's what we're doing today. Of course, you can have the whole document if you're interested. We're not keeping that secret, but we can share that if you're interested. Maybe leave a comment in the chat if you're interested, and then we can share it. But we understand that's a lot to take in a little meeting. And once we have your feedback on some of the factors that I will present in a second, we will revise the curriculum and we will finalize it. And that will be by the end of July. And then we also have some time to create the materials. There's a lot of materials that will be required for the curriculum as well. Then this is a summary of the main features of it. So we've got an online workshop curriculum. So it's all online, and we have 3 trainer facilitated and 4 self-guided components. So that came out also in the feedback a lot, that it's sort of the whole, if everything is self-guided, that can be sometimes tricky for participants to really keep going. And so we have 3 trainer facilitated sessions that are also aimed at the interactive and collaborative components. And through the Gamebook, of course, the contents will be gamified. We have very learner-centered exercises. In this context, it means the content that will be sort of used, sort of the materials the people will work with, are actually examples from their own practice or examples that they have worked with. So we found that also in other workshops, we found that, for example, we do a lot of workshops with teachers. We find that if you give sort of like dummy exercises or dummy materials, it can be a bit demotivating for learners to work with it, because it's like, yeah, that's just an example. But if it's actual examples from the practice of people, if they can work on their actual own materials, that really helps motivation. Because in the ideal case, people can, doing this workshop, in an ideal case, they can already really work on their own resources. They can, develop their own strategy. They can work on components of it. So it's like a step-by-step guide through doing that. So that's sort of very practical, hands-on approach, worked really well in the past. So we hope that's a motivator for people to participate and to actually work on the content, which is very, very important, because the content is sort of is running through the workshop. It'll be whatever you create, maybe in module 1 will flow into exercises in module 2 or 5. So it kind of all builds on top of one another. So it's sort of, it's, if people are not active and participating, they will struggle to complete it. It's not a sit back and listen kind of workshop. It's a really learning by doing kind of workshop. And it has a total workload of 25 hours, which is the equivalent of 1 ECTS. So we've tried to put that all into that, framework, because it's, first of all, it helps us with our micro-credentials. If once we want to put that in there, and it's usually also, useful for the personal development, professional development of people to have that kind of in some way formalized. So the way that we've written the curriculum, for example, through the learning outcomes, they're all ready for integration with the micro-credentials approach. So we've researched that, and we've really found that that should be possible to do it that way. And in total, we have the 7 modules, and they cover a total of 5 key activities, which I'll show you now. So the 5 key activities, they are in the role description. They're defined a bit more in detail. So we've got, they're also sort of building up. So what happens first? So it's the researching legislation and frameworks, which is, since they're changing a lot and ongoing, is really important that some research skills need to be trained. Then they have they need to develop a sustainable business strategy, and then of course implement it, generate a report, and communicate and promote the impact of the strategy. So they are the key activities, and they will be spread across those 7 modules. The modules are really pretty much, we've tried to cover each key activity in one trainer facilitated in one self-study, so that they can do their research on their own topics, and then they have this chance to exchange and share their experiences and their insights in the trainer facilitated sessions where they all come together. We found also in previous projects that's really something that a lot of people usually don't have a chance to do, to have that exchange. And we found that they were surprisingly successful sessions where people they can learn from the practical examples and problems of other people. So that's something that works really, really well. And even if they come from slightly different kind of professional contexts, you can always take something out of that. So there's a lot of room for these kind of exchanges and, discussing things together. These modules, they're meant to be implemented according to an organization's own schedule. So we don't have a fixed kind of, agenda. They can, for example, if they have a solid block of time available in an organization, they say we want to train so many people, and they have these 2 weeks to do it in, it can work in 2 weeks, but it can also be spread out across several weeks. So it's very flexible that way. Then I wanted to show you a little sample exercise. So pretty much the curriculum is a 33-page document. It's a Word and PDF, of course. And of course, there's a bit of an introduction, an explanation how it's supposed to be used. And then you have exercises. So they all pretty much look like this in terms of what is covered, what is explained by them. And each module has 6 to 9 exercises, so it depends a bit. And not all exercises are taking as long. So for example, of course, we will have an icebreaker that will maybe be 15 minutes, but that is in the exercise. So for example, the first module 1, has 9 exercises because you have, all the kind of starting bits in there, and some of the later modules will have 6 exercises, and they're all building on one another. So you can see in the titles, they're quite they're describing what's going to happen. If you see the little 1, that sort of implies already that there will be a second part for this. So once people look at it, they can already see, aha, that's definitely going to be followed up. Then there is a purpose usually defined for each exercise. That's just pretty much to frame it also for the development of the materials. Then there is a short description of it. So you can here, for example, you can see that it's really about their own professional context. In this case, they're supposed to identify key components of circular economy for their context. And that's really, really interesting to see what's going to happen in the end, because, they might find very different things. And then we have the mode. So that pretty much just tells the trainer how are they going to learn it? Is it sort of, will they need to go in breakout rooms, or is it sort of in a big group? It also depends sometimes on the group size. So, you know, there's also going to be instructions. If it's a very big group, you know, it works maybe for 8 people, but not anymore for 15, that sort of thing. And then we have the materials and the content required for each exercise. So this is the stuff that will still need to be developed, because that's really part of the game book, because that is all the gamified parts. And so in this case, for example, for this exercise, there would be a statistic that the trainers can use. So we have the trainers that will, you know, not be required to really prepare their own materials. It will all be created in the project, and they can then use it. They will get a handbook where they, you know, get instructed on how to use it and everything. And so in this case, it's set out what the materials will be, and it's, you know, yeah, it's just an example. They will have very different materials. And then you have also a section where it says which exercises are related. So each module built, not each, some are separate, but most of them built on each other. And there is a color code, and I'm not sure how I'm going for time. I think I have a couple of minutes left. I can show you a quick look of the curriculum, so you can just maybe get a bit of an idea of how that all connects. Let me just show you that. Is that right? Do I still have 5 minutes or so? Is there anyone keeping the time?
Yes, you have 5 more minutes.
Good. So this is just to show you how it's all interconnected. It's color coded. So these are the modules, and that's what I mean. It looks all a bit overwhelming now. It's nothing to take in, but you can see sort of just from a first impression, I guess, how it's all a bit connected and what materials will flow into other activities and so on. So that's all outlined in the curriculum. And yeah, you have you know, all the information in there, and you have, I can just show you the, I guess the overview on the side as well. You've got all the exercises, how long they take, and you can just click through and find it and maneuver easily. And yeah, so that's a very quick look at it. Just to maybe for the follow-up, hang on, I need to swap. For the breakout rooms now that we have, I think these questions will be in a breakout room as well. So this is pretty much, of course, we're very interested in your questions, which you may have. So please, if you have other questions or comments, we're always interested, but we try to get your views on these kind of questions and consideration for a specific issue. So it's really, is it clear from what you have seen? Of course, you haven't seen the whole thing. So just have a look at that, and then we have enough time for discussion on that. And I think before I run out of time, thank you from the project consortium, and I'll probably hand back over to you guys. Sorry, Maria, maybe?
Yeah, perfect. So thank you very much for that comprehensive view, Bettina. So what I have done in the background is everyone has now been moved into breakout rooms with a number of participants from across the different countries. There will be one of the project members at least leading the discussion, but we would love to hear your feedback and to make it as interactive as possible. So if you just bear with me, the breakout rooms will be roughly for about 40 minutes. And then when we come back, we will discuss what each of the groups were saying, and then it should all be done within the next hour or so. So thank you very much, and enjoy the breakout rooms.
So yes, so thank you again for all the input, and we had some really, really good questions. It was really insightful. I'll just I think we didn't even get to the to the discussion on the exchange space, so we'll be curious to hear from the others. But so we found out that the purpose of the curriculum is 100% clear, and that the structure of the curriculum is also logical and makes sense. then with the 25 hours of learning, the time is reasonable, yet there were some questions around the flexibility in terms of when to time it and how to make sure people can actually really, participate in the sessions, because we do have, those sessions that they are kind of fixed because it will be the online meetings or the online workshops. And so that would be something that really needs to be thought through, how to continue that, how that can be implemented, how you can kind of get that feedback and make sure that people can actually participate. Then we had in terms of the topics, we just had some questions, but I don't think it was necessarily, we didn't really get to talking about whether there's anything missing, but since nothing stood out, maybe they sort of mostly covered. There was an issue around certification micro-credentials, so it seems that would be important to have that. And then there was the question about the adaptability to the professional context. I guess that's sort of a content question. And sort of we would assume it is adaptable because it kind of keeps it open and people work with their own materials, but that sort of sometimes could be targeted as well to different kind of contexts, more, with more materials if needed. And then also the question whether how the trainer facilitated sessions, who would facilitate them. So the way that we now thought is that the project partners are planning to implement it in the future and offer that training, but there would be the trainer handbook and other tools and a toolkit that would be downloaded where companies can also implement their own sessions if that's something that's more workable for them, and adjust everything. Annalie, have I sort of covered most, or have you got
Yes,
other?
I think you have.
Maybe the participants, if you feel like I haven't actually managed to cover everything. Okay, thank you.
Fantastic, that's great. Maybe Merla and Philippe's group, if you wouldn't mind telling us some of your findings.
Yeah, okay. So in our breakout room, Merle opened our breakout room to spark some discussion and gather some input from the participants. It was clarified that the goal of the curriculum is actually to train the professionals who can later teach others about sustainability and ESG principles and all these related topics. So this could include also some internal company experts working on sustainability or ESG topics, as well as those whose roles involves educating some other colleagues on this subject as well. We discussed that the curriculum is actually not specifically aimed to some concrete universities or some highly specialized researchers, but rather that people with some experience, with some prior experience, who want to build a stronger foundation about these topics in general and apply them in their real life practices. We also put an emphasis on creating space for some ongoing communication and peer learning. And we discussed that setting up some kind of maybe a LinkedIn group or something similar for participants, and also about the possibility of using some communication platforms like Discord or similar ones. So to have and to encourage open conversation and experience sharing between participants. Also, we talked about the structure and pacing of the curriculum, and we actually acknowledge that people have different learning styles. So while some people prefer to go through the material gradually, others might leave everything for the end due to some other work obligations that they might have. So to support some more focused engagement, we also spoke about the possibility that the content should be released maybe in some stages, model by model, rather than all at once, because in this way participants can better absorb each part of the curriculum, and they could stay more connected to the whole process of learning experience. So yeah, I think I told all the notes. Maybe Merle, if I missed something.
Yeah, I think I just have two minor points. Like we had quite a bit of a discussion on what this exchange space could look like, and the input we got that was that it would actually be super nice to have it as an international one, especially also if the platform we use maybe has a translation function so that people can post in their own languages, or that there are channels in the different languages while the main language is English. Because this topic or this issue is something that applies to everyone, not just, it's the same issue in all the countries. So it's nice to have an exchange there. And then, yeah, we also discussed the like the division with the self-study and the trainer facilitated modules met approval, also the duration. But then the question for us, I think, is how we space it out, where there should be enough time for people to go through it if they also have other obligations, but also don't space it out too much to provide some incentive to complete. And then content-wise, there was just one comment that where we need to, when we develop the material, keep in mind that we pay close attention to the actual frameworks that we mention, that we talk about, to ensure that they are relevant, or that we pick up on the most relevant frameworks for sustainability reporting. But yeah, that's it overall. And I think in general, like structure and everything, the topics seemed good to our group.
Fantastic. And now then I think the next group was Beatrice and Miriam.
Hi. Yes, our main point was to talk about the modules distribution. In general, I think they are well distributed, and also to have self-study modules they think it's motivating, and it's also a good point for the curriculum. For the time needed, the 25 hours, it's hard to say it when you have not see the whole curriculum, but in general, I think it's okay compared with the time you need, for example, for a college module. So it's good to get a micro credential with these 25 hours. Also, they ask about the foundations of our curriculum, in what have been our reference to build all the topics and the content. After that, the conversation went to the particular needs and concerns of our participants related to their own business. So maybe Miriam can say something more in this aspect.
Yeah, we talked about kind of the circular economy and ESG reporting, and kind of the difficulties they had around getting information around this. So they talked about ambassadors and best practices, and kind of an inclusion of that kind of information in the curriculum, so people would have more access and information on kind of what is being done at a best practice level. And then we talked about, we were asked about, had we looked at other circular economy training like the Ellen MacArthur Foundation in the UK, and kind of developing best practice between that. But overall, they felt that the purpose of the curriculum was clear. It was suitable, like the 25 hours was perfect, and Beatrice has covered that. And that they thought the hours that you needed to commit was better, but it was kind of getting more ideas from them on what extra bits to include and what. But I think the best practices and kind of examples is what one I took around, and kind of there was a conversation about how legislation was confusing as well.
That is brilliant. And then the final group was Sarah and Abdallah.
You want to summarize it, Abdallah?
I think you can do it better. We can do it together. Okay. You can start first, and then we'll just, yeah.
Okay, so in general, regarding the contents and what is planned, the feedback was very good. And like that we start with the legislation to have an overview of the situation and everything. It was also pointed out something that we discussed previously about the case studies, the relevance of having case studies, also to know more about the different contexts and different sectors. Also, regarding this is connected with the chat option or the forum discussion. This was seen as a way to interact with other peers or other learners that might have similar situations, similar challenges, and also as a way to connect with people from maybe other countries that are working in similar things. Didn't quite decide if it's better to have it for one country or internationally, but this possibility to have this cooperation between learners and companies, it was very highlighted. What else? Also, we got questions regarding the layout of the self-study parts. If it's going to be like the kind of structure, if it's going to be the gamified version, and well, Abdallah actually explained the different options we will be having. On one side, like these classic materials to go through, but also a way to interact with the learning materials as a game to completing the exercises and do everything. And then we focus more on the distribution of self-study and trainer facilitated session and the timing to complete the exercise. We explained that the 25 hours is more in line with anyone who will get the certificate, but the training can be done also in other ways. But we're discussing how we can see an option to adapt for people to be able to complete not only the trainer facilitated session, but also the self-study that needs to be done before. That if it's in 2 weeks, it might be too tight. But yeah, maybe we need to discuss this so we find like a right timing that works. And yeah, I don't know what else. What am I missing?
Yeah, no, it's just yeah, you said it was no, it's just the self pace was a very good point that we had a couple of comments upon this point and what does it mean and in what format, and then the discussion led to that it can be or might be challenging for SMEs to dedicate 25 hours, working hours for some of their employees to just do it at once. So the question was for us, what do you mean by this 25 hours? It would be like for under what time of period? Like it can be for 1 year or 6 years. Then we said that there would be kind of facilitator guide to give such instructions on this. And exactly as Sarah said, like what is the difference, for the ones who are interested to get, like micro credential or certification, I mean, they can, but the minimum is to get, these 25 hours. If not, or just about the knowledge, then there would be like, the material will be accessible. So this is one of the things. And the case studies, and yeah, you mentioned this and how to interact with other people, I mean, or other companies from different countries. So we suggested, as we discussed earlier, or maybe, like from the first exercises of the project about, maybe making a kind of chat group or LinkedIn group for all the participants so that they can share information and all of this. There is another point that I think, that was mentioned also from the team or the participants from Ireland. The difference between the training and implementing these aspects in real life. And this was came to like a very good point from to in our group that was working in the hospitality sector, mainly particularly in the hotels. So how this can be, because you can't, it's very difficult, how to make an like in their sector. They said, okay, there is a specific time that we need, so that we can collect the data, we measure, and all of this. So we need to differentiate for the SMEs, what is the difference between the training and the real implementation for this, So it was very good point, so that people don't mix it up, or people come, thinking, oh, this can be, like something that we can fix in 2 weeks, and then, to avoid, kind of disappointments, or to be clear what are the correct understanding. I think those are the main things. If I am, yeah.
think so.
Okay, that's fantastic. Well, from there, I think we're almost exactly on time, which is fantastic. And I would just like to thank everyone for participating today. Their feedback is invaluable to this, and obviously it is a process that we are going through, and it is learning. And if you have any thoughts or ideas that come to you after today, please do get in contact with either myself or any of the other project partners who you may have met on the call today. We're always here and ready and willing to take your feedback on board, just so that we can actually ensure that we create the best possible outcomes for the learners and for yourselves as the learners. So with that, I wish to thank everybody once again, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, wherever you may be. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.